Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another series, another scene, another day. Here working on design and photography on our YouTube channel with Medium Unlimited, this really cool series that I began as an inspiration for the fact that we love trying new mediums and we love experimenting, and that is what we like to do. Do not contain us in a box. We are creative folks. And hopefully, if you're here live with me, you get to learn a little bit about my process and just enjoy. Chill with me for a little bit. Have fun. This is a new stream that streams on Wednesdays here on my YouTube channel and on Mondays exploring video over on Adobe Live. So hi folks on Behance, hi folks on YouTube. Thank you for being here. Say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're joining from. What discipline do you practice? What medium do you practice at the top? I'm sure you have two more, right? We all do, pretty much. All right. So, a little bit about my work and about myself if you're not too familiar. All right, so this is my website right here. It is a special corner of my world here on the internet. So if you go into this website, I'm not just sending you into a random place, I promise you. This place, I've tailored it for you. So it's not just a lot of different work displayed here from over the years. It's really catered for those artists looking for resources. So if you're in a year where you're learning how to explore different ways to share your work, how to explore new mediums, new tools, new skills, you will find in my website a lot of resources. We have classes on Skillshare. We have classes that have streamed on Adobe Live during some really, really memorable different concepts that I've explored. And all of them, you're going to find them here. So that's your spot right there, classes. So in here, you have Adobe live streams. You have Adobe live streams. Let's look at those. Really cool one on Premiere that I think a lot of people enjoyed. I was pleasantly surprised at how much audio we need, how much audio technique we need in our design. This here today, we're going to be exploring photography most of all, but all of these are streams that you can still replay and rewatch at your pace. And of course, you can find Medium Unlimited because Medium Unlimited is here streaming on Wednesdays and on Mondays. And hopefully you're enjoying it. I am learning different ways to make this stream compatible with me and how I work and you and how you learn, right? That's always important to me and everything I do. So Transformation Mondays is in here. Skillshare is in here. I love sharing my work in Skillshare. And so you can understand the difference. The difference is important, okay? So you can understand the difference. In my field of work, I am a visual mentor for graphic design, photography, and video, right? And for me, some of the parts is really, really important for me is that you always find a way back to the things that you're trying to learn. Because I know for me, when I was learning online, and I still do to this day, having resources in different areas is so impactful to my productivity of self-education. And I know you have to kind of set systems in place or you're not going to show up for yourself at all. So in that world, these two folks, Skillshare and YouTube, live in in separate places. If you want to learn things faster, you're going to come over to my YouTube channel. If you want to learn things in a slower pace but more in depth, you're going to go over to Skillshare because that's how I mitigate my own ideas too. I think to myself, is this idea too big? Does this idea belong in Skillshare and not in YouTube? And that's how I do it. So if you're figuring out which one's for you, all I want you to do is to learn and enjoy and have fun. That's the only thing you should be doing. Whatever pursuit calls you, for me, photography was a big part of that. So, talking about photography, let's go look at my work real quick. Photography has been my calling in so many different ways, so many different levels of my inner artistic self-expression have come out through photography. It is a very beautiful medium that is constantly shifting because we all want a little bit of it. We all want to see and see and see better. So there's a lot of technology that impacts photography, and you've probably come across the new technology today that is impacting photography, which is AI. And we have a lot of conversations about it here. Or on other streams, this one's fairly young. But the idea here is there is a space for different styles of work. That's the way I'm seeing it, and it makes sense to me. There are so many different mediums to explore. If you see these here, they have a little bit of graphic interruption into them. So it's not just a photograph. It's not just a scene. It's typography now. So there's a lot to think about that as you explore your own expression in the spaces of photography. And so I am seeing the Behance chat, folks. If you're over on YouTube, I gotta hit refresh and then maybe I see you there. There you go. So say hello. Let me know if you have questions along the way. What is keeping you energetic right now? It could be a project. It could be coffee, because coffee is always great. Tea. What is your fancy? It's always important, right? Like for me, it's 3:00. It's midday. A little bit of coffee. It's just comforting and it tastes great. That's really why. There's no other reason beside that. All right, y'all. Let's jump in to Lightroom. Let's do this. All right, we're here in Lightroom, and behind it, you might see that we also have Photoshop. We're going to work on that a little bit later. I'm going to talk through some of these images. If you've been following me from the OG, which I've been streaming since 2020, the grand time for being online because we couldn't be in person. Do you remember that? I definitely learned a lot via streaming, and it's been super fun. And now I'm trying to here on these spaces on YouTube and some more on Behance, because my Behance community is just too cool, so we can't leave them behind. So this series I edited. I always have a hard time saying that because I hear myself echo. So this series I've edited, and I found different ways to do it. This was definitely very, very much in the dark. Like there's a lot of areas that are actually truly completely black. There is almost no information in there, which is totally fine. Let me see if I can hear this here real quick. I'm going to put some soundtracks for us so we can enjoy ourselves. Trying to find it. Give me a sec. Let's see. I made a special soundtrack and I want to listen to it. It is so good. And it puts me in the zone, that project zone that we all have to get in. I don't know. What do you use? I know for me, music is a big deal. So I often resort to that. Okay, I know exactly where to go. Folders and folders. Okay, almost there, folks. Almost there. Bear with me. Soundtrack vibes. Okay, I found it. Oh, please play. Just do me a favor, please. There you go. Y'all can hear it, right? I did this for you, honestly. Okay, let's see. Much better, right? I think it's much better. All right, so we have these photos in front of us. The reason why I picked these photos again isn't so much because we're going to dive into a very, let me lower this a little bit, very intense photo editing process. It's more about addressing the images that can be created into something else. So finding the images that are workable enough to become ingredients into a new scene. So that is what I wanted to do today. So for example, we're going to start with these two images and I want you to pick two, right? So ideally you want to find yourself, I'm going to pick two here. Let's remove this by pressing this little toolbar. Then we can click it and that goes away. It's nice to have more monitor space, right? So I've chosen two because I've selected this grid point right here, which lets me see them side by side. I absolutely love Premiere for different areas of my process, especially if I'm going to play with photography in any other way that goes beyond photography. So being able to be linked to places like Photoshop makes complete sense. Okay, so what we're gonna do here, we don't wanna take up too long, but let's go over here, these two images. I might choose this one and this one, in fact. So the reason why I'm picking them, this one is a little bit closer and this one is a little bit further, right? The poses are also very different. One is a little bit more hidden, more demure. The personalities feel opposite. So it's an interesting intrigue here to try to unite these two into one. So let's try that. Currently, this photo does not have any improvement. In fact, the red that you see there was part of the light conditions in the space where I photographed it. So it wasn't so much that I came and did this in post editing. So it's an interesting, clever way to just get this like monochromatic look. And it's perfect because all of these black areas that I mentioned earlier, they're going to be great for blending. All right, enough talk, enough shop talk. And let's open this into Photoshop, which is our program companion today, because this is Medium Unlimited and we're exploring more than one medium, and that's the fun part. So we're going to explore some options here for our ingredients. Alongside opening that image, I will open this opposite image that I have chosen here. So let's open it in Photoshop, which can also be a shortcut of Shift Command E or Shift Control E for PC. So let's see. Duplicate, right click and duplicate this scene, duplicate layer, and find the other alternative open file that you see here, the other TIFF, right? Super cool to duplicate files this way because you can also send them to a new document. You can send them as a new artboard if you had multiple artboards available. So press OK. And when we go to the next file, you're going to see it right there. So a copy has been made onto one file. So I'm going to double click this one so it is able to be edited. And what I want to go and do here is I want to hit the Command U and I want to play with an opposite color. So in the guidelines of creating this effect that we're going to attempt to do here, I want to think about the subject. So I want to think of two subjects that are building some level of irony, some level of scale that feels opposite to each other, some level of color that feels opposite to each other, and maybe some texture. So I'll show you what I mean by the color part. So the color part is going to be shifting this hue onto a color. There you are. So we're going to shift this hue. It's determining the color palette, not the intensity of the saturation. how much color is in an image, but it's going to be the actual color within the entire rainbow. And so why and when would I stop and say, this is the color for me? Well, in my choices, I'm thinking to myself, well, I already have a red picture and that's warm and that's powerful and has symbolically all of these different variables, but I don't have the opposite. And we're playing opposites here today. I don't have a cool color, right? Opposite of our other color, which is a little bit more powerful. So let's do anything from green, blue. Those colors are a little bit more cool, right? So we can use that. We could also cool it a little bit more with the lightness, something like this. But in this case, a little light contrast for our modes is going to be very helpful. So let's do that blue, right? We arrived around here. Press OK. And this is not going to yet modify anything that we don't want to, right? Our original file still lives here, completely red. And so now we're going to go into the fun part, which is to go into this section right here where we have all of our different modes and try out one of the modes. Now, I want you to learn some things about this mode. This section right here deals with black. This section right here deals with white. These sections here is more like color, and you can start to see how that shifts over. So let's try some of these. It's my favorites, definitely anything that deals with white or black, right? So here's black. So anything in this image that is not black, right? So you can see here, this image, if we only select this image right here. So these areas right here are black, right? Do they become a window to our image below? They don't, because we're dealing with respecting the color black above all in these sections. So we can do linear burn, we can do any of these, but they're still going to respect most of all the black areas, and that's not going to help us. We wanted this picture because it had so many black areas, which can become windows to our image below. So what do we do then? We have to go and deal with the light areas. So let's go here and select lighten, screen, color dodge, linear dodge, lighter color. All of those are pretty powerful. So let's go in here and go into linear color, turn this on, and you can see what happens. So we have color dodge. So now it's respecting the whites, not the blacks. And so that image in white or anything that's lighter, it's going to be visible here. We can also do it the opposite way. So we can keep this as normal and do a screen respecting the white with any of these, right? Now, what's really interesting is that we start playing with color. You can also do the same, but with one of these all the way at the bottom. So the ones at the bottom, if we shift this over, you can see all the blacks have become the opposite color on hue. It's really interesting to get to know these modes because that's really going to, I love exclusion. It's one of my favorite parts. That's really going to help you make a decision of whether you bring in an image that's mostly predominantly black in the areas that are of your interest, whether it's you want to keep the subject in focus, then you're going to be using this section right here, right? If you want to respect mostly the white area to keep your subject in focus, you're going to pick from here. If you want to start thinking of color, then you're starting to go all the way down. So exclusion is really interesting because of the way it navigates all of the color, but anything that has black is absolutely gone. Shift 0 there to kind of recenter. And so that's kind of how that looks. Now, I find these two to be very opposite of each other, right? So I might be able to bring in some of this back so that you can see that expression up top. And we can experiment with maybe some of the other alternatives. I think I had one here that felt... I think this one's a little bit more powerful, to be honest. So let's go into edit, Shift Command 4, is that what I said? Edit in Photoshop. Shift Command E, not 4. Why do I associate 4 with E? Tell me that, because I don't know, but I do. Let's see, folks, how we're doing. Welcome back, by the way. I am so glad to see you here. Okay, checking in on all the other things. Don't mind me. I definitely have to check in on a lot of things at the same time. So let's pull this in. We did open it in Photoshop, did we? Did we not? So now we know how to do it. We duplicate that layer. We transfer it over to, what is the name of it? Edit to TIFF. Ooh, they're very closely named. That's the one. All right. So we're on this one, and I'm going to do the same thing. I think I'm going to do at screen for this. Wow, those colors are absolutely stunning. And so that's kind of an interesting way to approach this. You can also do the same thing here. Hit that letter U, shift those colors to something different while you have the mode on. And this way you're going to have a different experience editing the colors. I love this. This is a beautiful one. And even better, we can customize it, right? So I want this to be really clean. I'm going to add a mask in here by just holding nothing. In fact, if you hold Alt, it'll be black. If you hold nothing, it'll be white, which means it is still showing scenes. But I do want to hold Alt so it's black. And so I can reveal just little by little using a brush with a soft harness to 0, no harness at all. So size average, it doesn't have to be that. Oops, random value, strange, something like this. And we're gonna add white to our brush. So it's going to reveal the areas in white. Masks are probably the best thing you can invest time in learning. They're so much fun and they are so versatile. You can use it in anything. I can tell that down here, my image is not completely stretched. So what I did is I removed the link right here. Let's remove that link. And now clicking the tiny little thumbnail, so teeny tiny, not the mask, we're going to expand that. So holding Command, it'll expand it. Holding Alt, it'll expand it from any corner. Shift. I want to say it's this combination. There we go. Okay. So I like how this looks. I like that the eye comes through and I want that visibility of that eye contact. So I think I'm going to press enter there. In fact, this little section, I don't really like that much. So I might actually change it. So hit brush and make that brush pretty tiny. Giant brush, I don't know why. And erase this section by pressing Shift X and switching that black to the foreground. And so that's going to be a primary color that blocks that from being visible. Let's bring back her hair here. Hit brush, Shift X, and you can just do that. You keep going. Shift X, it switches that toggle. You want to see it? So Shift X. Do you see that? You need those hotkeys. You just need them. There's no avoiding them. They are so helpful. You're going to be so grateful later on once it becomes sort of muscle memory, really. So I think here on the nose, it's a little uncomfortable. It looks strange. So maybe we can softly fade that away. And then this is the part, right? This is like tender love and care. You kind of take your time to bringing some areas, removing some areas, and making a decision of what the positioning is. Let's bring back that link and maybe we can play around with the positioning. If you were to play with scale and you put this way in the back somewhere, it starts to feel like these are her thoughts. These are maybe something that she's thinking about. I know her poses are a little provocative, but that does not mean that she doesn't, occupy a bigger space than, just her sensuality. So I love to honor that, and especially in pictures of women, show a level of story. There's always something happening behind the psyche, right? And that is what makes a powerful image, in my opinion, is one that holds a story that the viewer can start just to pull apart. Not pull apart, but that's not the right way, but deconstruct, right? So it's so much fun that way, right? Like part of why you like shows on TV is because sometimes they help, especially crime movies, right? You're deconstructing the clues. You are there participating. And so if you are thinking as a photographer, how can I improve my photo if I'm doing photo compositing? How can I continue to tell some degree of storyline here? And at this point, it could be many things, but how can I do that so that the viewer can read the context clues and find a little bit of heart? And it doesn't mean it has to be a story about a little girl who went to the store or so on. It doesn't have to mean that. It could just mean something symbolic, something just about it makes you walk away with a feeling. Okay, then you've succeeded. I think that's important enough. In my field of design, we stress that so much that it's like a multi-billion-dollar industry to put heart into our work, put personality, humanity. And I think the same applies with forms of arts that are a little bit more fine art, because they're there for us to push the limits and not so much so to sell you something. So it's interesting. All right, we'll leave this alone. I think it requires us to do a quick fresh eye. And what I mean by that is I love taking a look at my work with fresh eyes, move on to another experiment and try to see that once again, to see if I would make any modifications or anything like that. So let's move on to another combination of this series, and let's go over to Lightroom. Okay. All right, folks, we're in Lightroom. Hey, Arsha, welcome. Arte Publicidade. Ooh, okay. Hi, Arsha, welcome. I am so glad to have y'all on the chat. Remember today's question. I had a few questions for you, but most of all, what mediums are you currently playing with? That's the question of the day. I think that's the question of the day across the board for every Medium Unlimited. What new medium are you playing with today that just caught your eye, because that sometimes happens. I have been recently playing with film a lot. It's a new medium. Okay, this is digital, folks. This right here, what you're looking at, is a Canon 6D digital. I love it. It's not great for nighttime, but it is exactly wonderful for what I need. And when I find myself finding a new interest, like something like Polaroids, I have a Polaroid right here I can show you. So I have a Polaroid right here, and I'll demonstrate that for you. I have this. This is my latest interest, taking Polaroids and perfecting them. And I'll do an entire stream on this, but this is just for me to inspire you to drop on the comments or jump into the chat and let me know what medium are you playing with today that is totally out of curiosity, is totally out of just experimenting and playing with something new. It is still photography, but film and Polaroids and the entire history of it all. It's absolutely phenomenal and exciting for me. And I find myself just loving it. And I told you this, right? Like, part of the rule, if there is any rule, folks, if there's any rule in this entire game of visual learning, has to be to just have fun. That's the only rule. I know it sounds so simple enough, but if you're not enjoying your artistic process, there had been many years in my lifetime where I felt like I wasn't happy doing design. I wasn't happy doing the criteria of design I was doing. But then I found happiness in a different medium. I found it in photography. And that was very special because it catapulted me into believing that I may be able to teach myself not just improvements in the field that I learned formally in school, but also in other mediums that I didn't learn formally in school. So photography for me, it taught me that I can teach myself anything that I put enough energy and time in. And eventually it becomes so easy, actually. You find methods that work for you. You find systems that work for you. And you do it all over again. So I'm here doing it all over again, learning video and bringing that over to y'all on Mondays, which is super fun too. So yeah, what medium are you playing with? Let me know. Share it on the chat. Share it on the comment section. I want to get to know you. Okay, so let's jump back into Lightroom as we were. And we have here our other options. We have this beautiful image. So what's interesting about these photos, okay? I took these photos a long time ago. And we were just talking about AI. And for photos like this, I'm happy we have AI. Edit in Photoshop, my friend, because Lightroom and Photoshop are besties. I really believe that. We're gonna double click that, and immediately I see this photo and I want to crop it because it's a photo that I took so long ago, but it is now welcomed into the new era of AI generative expand. And that it gets me so excited because I was in this moment, I was there trying to take a photo of a friend, a person I had just met. And in my head, I'm thinking, where can I put you? There were so many people in that event. And so part of me didn't know, like, how can I put him anywhere that doesn't have too much noise happening? How can I put him somewhere where the background is going to be pretty clean? Most of those spaces were occupied, but I didn't want to lose my opportunity to photograph this beautiful individual. So I told him, here, come over to this little corner. It won't be much, and I'm probably going to shoot it in vertical. And so I did. And part of me thinks it's wonderful, but part of me is also saying, gosh, I wish I would have photographed that horizontally, because that to me is a ratio that I love much more today. Back then, I didn't. So, wow, I wish that I had a better background for this person. All right, all wishes come true because we're over in Photoshop using generative expand. So let's jump into generative expand, and it's pretty simple to do that. We're gonna go into our crop tool. So mind you, folks, this tool was inspired by us. We made this happen in real time. Why do I say that? Let me do this here. All right, I kind of went to the wrong place. Okay, so why do I say this? Because we created generative expand by the fact that we were using generative fill so much as an expanding tool. So the programmers put it to work and they said, let's make it a whole thing. Let's make it a tool. Why don't we do that? And here we are, folks. We get all the wishes we want. Adobe here is granting wishes all the time. You just have to go and tell them, right? And by telling them, you can go here in beta feedback, and they listen. These are real people listening. I always find that shocking that we have so much transparency in the way that these programs are developed. Let's go here. Now we're in the crop tool. We're gonna go under this little drop down, which has transparent default, generative expand, and content aware fill. So now we know what options we have. Let's say we use from oldest to youngest. Transparent default, what it's going to do, it's going to allow me to change that ratio. Wonderful. We changed the ratio. I'm happy with that. But we have empty pixels because that is what transparent default does. That's not quite what I want. Let's try the next oldest to newest, content aware fill. Same goes, right? We're going to expand it to a new ratio, maybe about there. Starts to feel 9:16. And it takes a little bit of time because this time it's actually trying to recreate the background. Now, this one's not that great. This option alone, a singular option, did not quite create the visual I had in my mind because I wanted an environment that was clean, right? We talked about this. And instead, it duplicated patterns, which, albeit very interesting, it's not exactly what I wanted. So in this case, I think a way to mitigate this is if your image is too complex, then understand it's going to have a hard time. And by it, I'm talking about content aware fill. It's going to have a trickier time. So let's undo that. Instead, go to our third option, our newest option. It doesn't necessarily block out content aware fill forever. Just know that if your image is too complex, it might in fact get confused. So generative expand is going to be your option. So I just click generative expand. I'm going to undo that ratio. And now we have generative expand on while we do our ratio changes. So let's go over here and expand it to that nice cinematic 9:16, which, you know, it's an average that I just did there. I didn't do it super accurately. Arsha says, very nice. This is looking cool. Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And we're just going to wait a little second. Generative fill. Okay, we waited a little bit for generative fill. I know that. But this time, I didn't wait in vain. I got 3 different options, right? That's pretty cool. So I have this option. I have this option. Whoa. Okay, I'm not going to lie. A little neon sign with some Asian kanji characters would have been phenomenal. That would be great. Maybe we can ask for it. We get everything we want. But if I just wanted simplicity, we start writing the question of whether we want to introduce elements that didn't exist on our scene, but we are actually being really creative and experimental. So I'm okay with transforming the scene into something different. That is the mindset I'm in. That is what I'm using these photos for. If you're navigating journalism, I always say this, then you have different rules. There's several things that you may not want to mess with. But if you're starting to play with composites and do a conceptual artwork, then this could be the space. If you're just trying to replace pixels, that could also help. So it looks like it might need help in prompt generation. So let's say clean, minimal background with large windows. Large glass windows. Okay, so notice what I'm doing here is I'm doing a couple things. I'm asking for a style. So I'm asking for clean, minimal. I'm asking for a specific part of the image. So I'm asking for the background. And I'm asking for a subject. So I'm asking for large glass windows. There's a lot going on there. I was going to introduce one more thing, but I felt too unique, which is overlooking the city. That part feels too unique, so I'm not going to do it right now, but I'm going to keep it for the next round just to see what we get. And drop on the chat. Let me know if you think of another element to this prompt that we can introduce. Gosh, we can introduce so much. There's definitely a learning curve to introducing pieces to a prompt. to generate something intriguing. Look at this. Whoa, this is so interesting. Hello. Look at all of this combination of lighting. It makes it feel like actually I'm here, overlooking light that has been has landed on my subject from this window. It really does look like that way. One of the things I would love for Adobe to create is that from here, I can continue on to not just generate similar, but really say like, this is my favorite. But generating similar is a happy compromise. I'm not gonna lie. That's wonderful. I just want to like it. I want to start the way I can in Adobe Firefly. Folks, March is going to be full. I'm just gonna a couple announcement while we wait for that. Gosh, you know what? March is going to be full of so many streams. I'm super excited. I'm going to be hanging out with Adobe Live in San Francisco in March. So exciting. And we're also running a Photoshop challenge in March. So again, I need to move over here. Let me move this browser. There you go. Okay. So visit my website. I'm just going to scroll back up, go to this section, go to classes, and there you're going to find all of the streams that I'm going to be up to. But the best place above all that you can go to is go to YouTube/Cyn Lagos. This is the place I would love to see you in. I think it's a wonderful place for you to find and keep up with my streams, for you to learn more about the process that we're going to be embarking on this year. There's so much that I have planned and I'm super hype. I'm happy that I get to do this with y'all and I get to demonstrate some of the tools and skills that I've learned. And hopefully this becomes a place where we can hang out, because quite honestly, I do this all the time. I am always editing. I am always entering my editing zone, one version or another. Either I am on Premiere, working on different motion graphics. You can find some of those streams here. Or maybe I'm working on Lightroom or on a design project. I'm logging in those hours anyhow, and I am loving the fact that I get your company on these streams to do the same. Life is good, folks. So check out my YouTube channel, which I'm growing it this year. Is that wild or what? I've been in this for a very long time, and life is exciting in this space of design and art and tech. So if you're like me, you totally get it. I'm sure you do. All right, so let's go over to Photoshop and get back to our generations, and let's see what we get. All right, so we have this one. Let's introduce that word, that sentence that we said earlier. Welcome, Akshu. That's a cool name. Welcome, folks. For those of you who are just joining me, I am creating some generative fill, generative expand generated background. So we expanded this ratio, an image that was taken before the existence of AI as a modifier. And we're here playing around with this series of images to see how we can play with all of these images and play with each of their relationships to each other, right? That's an interesting quest, an interesting thing to put, an interesting way for you to challenge yourself to find a series of images that helps you create a new project, something that could be really, really fun to play with in its counterpart, which to me, I believe, is Photoshop. So I love jumping in here and playing with different ways that I can actually create something new from the elements and ingredients that I already have. And it takes experimentation. It takes sitting there and actually trying it out for the first time, or maybe trying out something that you had done before a long time ago, but now a different way to give it meaning. That happens to me all the time. So I'm going to close these because these are going to take up a lot of energy out of our workspace. We don't want that. This one's cool. What do you think? I mean, of course, anything that is going to be back here, it's questionable. I start to wonder, why did it bring me here? I'm not sure. But I start to wonder, are those buildings real when I'm requesting complex things? This is why I was hesitant. It does have these resolutions that don't quite work. Pixels look a little muddled, and I know for a fact that's not going to be a good choice. I don't need this to look realistic, but I want it to feel like it goes together. And I just came off a stream on Adobe Live with Carlos Jimenez, whom I learned a lot from, who actually is devoted and completely dedicated to this detail-oriented surrealistic images. Super cool. Learned a lot from him. Check that out. It's a restream up on b.net/live. And it's so cool, But for me, my decision is a little bit less focus on that. It has to look realistic, because that's not what I need for me. So I think I want it to look somewhat realistic, but not go too far as to show me buildings that I know don't exist. That's kind of the scary part. Because then that image could improve tomorrow. That quality of that export could improve tomorrow, and you could actually have a better result. So for now, this one's the one for me. So here's the thing. We have now generated 4 times. We have to erase some of these and tell ourselves, you know what? This takes up a lot of energy. We cannot have it if we don't want it. Declutter, spring cleaning, the works. So we can remove some of these. That's just good practice. It isn't that I want you to remove all of these generated pieces that you might want to use later. If you think you're going to use them, you can still keep them. You don't have to erase them, really. So let's go in here and generate one last nudge. One last thing that I'm really curious about. It's not going to work out. I already know. And I can tell you why I know this. Because I was so stuck here in my chair. Okay, because this is a very challenging part to request from AI, this little section. It's hard because you see, like for example, I want to ask for Japanese neon sign, but it might not be that great at showing me fonts. In one way or another, Japanese characters are fonts. So they're typesets. They're pretty complex, right? Like in even our English language or other languages that use Roman letters, they will still be a tricky thing for AI to generate. So the fact that we get anything at all these days is really a testament to the improvements and dedication of the team, because I have seen this be so much worse and it did not look as good. And now the generations are actually workable. And I really like that. I think that gives me a lot of hope that there's so much potential here for us to create something new. And remember, I started with this image. Wait, where'd you go? Where'd you go, my friend? I started with this image. That's where I started, folks. This is an image that, oops, wrong one. This is an image that I couldn't take with a bigger ratio because we were not in an optimal location. But because I am a street photographer at the core, I needed to take that portrait of that person in that moment. And that is always the case that I run into. I love to embrace mixed media, so I'm happy to jump into Photoshop and add a background that by life we could not create, nor did we have a budget nor a plan, because that wasn't what we were there for. But this image still deserves better. So we get to have a chance now in modern technology. Ba, 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 ba. I mean, really, it's an exciting thing, I think, to be able to have the opportunity to convert it into something new. That looks beautiful. And albeit I know that these are probably not hiragana, katakana, kanji. There's nothing there. Is there something there? Does anybody know how to read this? And if you do you think there's something there? Because I hope there's nothing like bad words on it. But when I look at it, I don't recognize any of these characters. It looks a little bit closer to katakana, but I don't think so. These look a little bit more conducive to an actual character. I would be a little bit more afraid that they mean something else in a different language. So always proofread that, find a buddy, ask a friend online. I don't care what you need to do, but in design, we learn that this is an important part of our design process, which is to be able to disseminate when an information is going to translate incorrectly, erroneously, all because somebody did not bother to double check or to check typos, or it seems like maybe an uninspiring, less poetic facet of our process, but it's so vital because when you have the right ingredients and they have the right meaning behind it, it's another game. It's like a whole another thing. And I devote myself to that. I find that to be very special in how I approach my work and the kind of work that I am proud of. So hopefully that inspires you too. Rosemary, welcome, Rosemary. They're saying this is pretty nice with a little heart. Thank you for the heart. How adorable. I wish y'all could send me little hearts. I know if I can do this. Does it do anything? My camera does something usually, but it doesn't. This. Okay, it doesn't work, folks. It did it once upon a time by accident, and I didn't even know it. But here we are. All right. So let's move on to another image, right? I love this one. I am so happy of this one. And hopefully I get to revisit this image and finalize what this text is. If it is gibberish, if it is lorem ipsum, then I'm happy with it. I will choose the blue one. Maybe I'll choose one of the golden ones because it makes more sense that that's the light that's happening. But pending, kind of the point being pending, which means I'm going to keep these generations. I'm going to keep these options. This one's a little bit more abstract. I might keep this one from the get. And I am not going to erase them. I have two generations here. I have this one and I have this set. Now this is going to make my file a little bit bigger. Yes. Yes, it is, but that's okay. Got to pick your battles. Double click that. No, I don't need to double click that. What I need is my properties panel. Where are you? Windows, properties. There you are. Okay. So if I go here and I'm in my properties panel, I can see all the ones that I have that I've decided to keep. Okay. And then I made this one on top of that one. So it's using that one as a reference. If we switch this one, it's going to become something really awkward. It's like, wait, that doesn't go at all. But that's my other favorite one, actually, aside from this one. So I'm going to do something really interesting. I'm just going to hit save and press OK. And it tells me that this is going to be a heavier file. And I know that because not only is that a default for sure, because it's a TIFF file and we mess with it and we have more than one layer available here, but we also have layers within layers. So yes, it's going to be bigger, but there's a single perk of why I'm willing to do this. Saving at 99%. And once it's saved, we'll press close that in there. We're going to go back to our zone here on Lightroom. Hopefully let that kind of takes its time, I think. I'm streaming, folks. There's a lot my computer's doing. That's the real deal. So if I close it, what I'm trying to say might be simpler for this one. It's going to generate itself back in Lightroom, which is exactly what I needed to do. This is exactly what I need. It is so much fun to be able to communicate between two apps and they are working cohesively. I'm making them work cohesively and it makes more sense. It allows me to play with different textures, colors, ingredients, and revamp an image that would have been pretty neutral, maybe not my favorite, but we've been talking here on this stream about taking a photo that may be for you a B plus, but taking it from a B plus to a total A plus. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of fun, right? So let me lower this a little bit more. All right, so now we have two under our tool belt. Let's try this one. I absolutely love this photo. Again, they're not edited all that much. This is just all about highlighting, creating those highlights and making that color a little bit better. So let's use Lightroom to find our selects, our hero shots, the shots that we want to counter each other's ideas. I see her here smiling and I see her here sitting, not smiling, but more serious. And the composition, it's a little bit different. It's more away. And this one, I gotta say it has a similar aesthetic, but she's a little bit closer. So I said that my rules, not my rules, but my guides are subject, scale, color, and texture, all experiencing some level of tension, some opposite. So let's see these two next to each other. Yeah, they seem opposite to me. So let's go and press Shift Command E. Did I get that right? Shift Command E. Hey, it didn't work. That's because I have two selected, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. Is that why? Let's go back to this view, select one, Shift Command E. Yes, it worked. My shortcut worked. Isn't that an exhilarating feeling? Because that means you're going to be like Speedy Gonzalez next. Edit this one too. Edit it in Photoshop. Hi Adobe Live. Hi folks all over the YouTube space and beyond space. I'm so happy to have you here. I can see that Adobe Live is somewhat simulcasting me, which is so awesome. Thank you. I can't say that word for some reason. So folks, we're here editing in Lightroom and Photoshop, and it's super fun because we're exploring how we can make an original image by combining different ingredients. For example, doing double exposures and also experimenting with different generative fill options that we have today that we can bring in to photo series that maybe have collected a little bit of digital dust, right? We all have those. I welcome you to bring out your photos, open up Lightroom, enjoy an editing zone. That's always what I do for myself. I dive into an editing zone for 30 minutes, an hour, and it just helps learn something new through discovery and through a little bit of curiosity, right? Just like exploring something. Whenever I get to a point where I say to myself, wait a minute, this isn't quite it. This, I don't know how to use that tool. I dig a little bit deeper and ask myself, how can I play with it? Right? So I just duplicated this image, hit Command U, change that hue to something opposite. Maybe we do a green here. Dealing with all the black or dealing with all the white or all of the colors. Depends on what you want, right? For me, the white areas, or the lighter areas, the areas that have white, highlights, midtones are going to come through. The areas that have shadows are going to be letting the image behind it come through. So that could be an interesting take. We're going to add a layer mask that is completely black by holding Alt. And now that was a really fast way of doing what we did earlier, but hopefully now you're starting to kind of learn how to do those steps slowly. So if you want to learn how to do that slowly, go back to the replay and go to the very start. You're going to see how we use different tools to get to that. Okay. Shift X to add a little bit of white in my brush to reveal some areas. And now it's not exactly where I want it positioned. I think I should probably play with that first. So it looks like in scale, she is a little bit too identical with the sizes. So I might want to do something like this, where one of them is a little bit bigger. We can reflect this too, flip horizontal to create a different scene. And we can do maybe not screen, but do something like exclusion or lighten. I kind of like the exclusion. All right. So that is kind of interesting there. Let me see what other options we have here. We have smiling and we have that one. I love this one too. It's absolutely beautiful. She's absolutely beautiful. So let's see here if we can change that hue to something more intriguing. I do find that the blue tends to work best for these scenarios. So definitely think about that color hue as you're photographing. Maybe you have an opportunity to photograph with gels indoors. This one was not indoors. I want to highlight her hand there. This one was not indoors. It was an event which I attended. And the hotel had these really cool lights, and I just brought these different people that I would meet that night. And I'm like, I want to take your portrait. And I would like to use this light right here. And I explain my process, and we have a lot of fun just playing, because I guess in that moment what it is, it's an invitation to play with a camera and just be happy and enjoy it. I will say this was a wonderful time to be a photographer, partially because there was less animosity towards people and cameras. There's a lot of weaponizing cameras nowadays, which scares me, because it's a sad turn of events, I would say. So I kind of like how that looks. Yeah, I think cameras are absolutely the most, think about it. It's one of the most humble, selfless venture there has existed. I don't know. Somebody might argue, how can that be selfless? It's literally photographing your image. I don't know. I think it's the desire to imitate our eyes that I find that to be such a humble pursuit. It's like wanting to land on the moon. Like, why? You're perfectly fine here, but you want to, and you want to imitate our eyes, and you want to find out what else do people have to say when the moment is frozen. And I think that's something we can't abandon, even if society has abandoned it and chosen to make photography the bad character in this world of social media. But I don't think so. I think the bad character is our difficulty creating boundaries for these areas that maybe you don't have to participate in. I love being in streams like this. I love being in events like these where I meet people that are like-minded. But the goal is that, right? That it's enriching, that it's not going to be something that is going to restrain you from evolving as a person, as an artist, Otherwise, what are you doing, right? That's what I ask myself. Like, I must have a reason why I'm investing time in certain spaces, just so that I can know, so you don't end up in the wrong place. And that's my 2 cents, folks. I'm going to save this here, and I'm going to save it on the TIFF file, make it a big size. That's okay. I'll be fine. I love this. I love this composition. She looks beautiful. I love that I kind of pointed it towards the light there. And now we have a new composite out of those two. I love that. Let's see if we can use generative expand to expand a few of these too. For example, I have this image. Absolutely love this image. I actually had her lay down on this grass patch that had a kind of like a sliver of lighting that is meant more for the environment, really. It's just to enhance the environment. But we were just very scrappy and went for it. And she went for it. She was like, yeah, I'll lay down on the floor. It doesn't matter to me. It's great. And that's where it's worth it. You know, it's a lot of fun to find these enriching spaces where you can coexist with other creative individuals. I want to get back to that, folks. Let's get back to that. Everybody, we gotta rile up and applaud the brands that bring back people together. I think that's one way to go about it. Generative expand. Let's use generative expand again. What is the magic? What are the possibilities? Hit generate. All right, this one was a very complicated one. Look at this. Whoa. Maybe in moments like this, I find that what could be helpful is to generate one at a time. So if I was to generate this area, I can generate it one at a time versus both areas at the same time. In this very moment, if I generate over this file, what it's going to do is take all of it in context, and I don't want that. So I'm actually going to keep this image intact. Oops. Command J here. And I'm going to, I actually think I went the long way here. I'm going to delete that. What's the deal? Oh, okay. That's fine. So if we have this file, let's see if we can, I'm trying to imagine what could be out of this scene. I love the black areas. There's a lot to kind of dream up here. Like if I wanted to go here, I might say something like outer space. Generating outer space. It's a pretty gigantic demand because it's outer space. It could be planets. It could be, you know, black holes. It could be a nebula. Okay. Do have a struggle asking myself why. Okay, I did this in the wrong layer here. That's what happens. You want to bring that layer up, right? And you see what happens? Up. Wow. I'm not mad at it, right? I'm not mad at it. I love it, I think. Do I dare say I love it? Oh my God, she's looking. Okay, but this is not it, right? This one. What do we do about this side? How do we fill in that side? I struggle with this side. This doesn't make any sense. So what if I say outer space again? Stars, black universe. So hopefully with stars. Hopefully. I mean, that is not a complex prompt by all means. It's just a prompt I decided to put there. and hope for the best, because that's usually how it goes, folks. You kind of hope for the best. And that's what it did for me. What? That's kind of awesome. I kind of love it. Hello. I mean, there's nothing you can get mad at to circular shapes because they tend to always look so organic, so circular next to a subject. It's just so poetic and so beautiful. I think the geometry of it compels me because I'm a designer at heart. So I find myself, kind of back into that and all the time and sort of negotiating with myself, like, why would I keep this photo? It's like, oh, okay, it has some geometry in it. I like that. I'm going to keep it. You eventually have your own guidebook. And it's the truth. Maybe this inspires you. Maybe this is the thing that is your calling, right? Which is the part about compositing, not exactly doing what I'm doing, but just maybe this is the thing. But maybe it could be something else. But you'll never find out if you're not exploring, experimenting, trying it out. And there's a lot of room for that. And I think that's kind of the part where we get to explore and try it out together. Because why would you want to do it by yourself, right? So, went way out, folks. It's a lot of fun, though. Gotta say that. Gotta always say that because that's the check. That's the pulse check, right? So let's go here back into our demo. This star looks hand-drawn. It does not look... Let's see what other options we have. Whoa! Am I... Sorry, was that loud? I'm sorry. I'm sorry for my ears because I heard that loud. Okay, so this one is absolutely stunning and I really love it. Please, more of this. Thank you. I don't think that line is exactly what I want. I wish it was a circular shape as well. Maybe we can generative fill that, but quite literally, this could be a start of a composition that kind of works out in more than one layer. So let's keep hitting generate here. I do definitely think I can find some variation of this that hits the spot a little bit better, but I definitely want a second photo to also do a double exposure on this one. So let's see, it's generating. Okay, we have this photo. Okay, no, wait, that's not the one we want. Let's go to Lightroom and find an alternative of this one. Okay, perfect. In this one, she is close up and her expression is different. It's exactly what we're looking for. We're going to duplicate it, go over to that name of that file, which right here says 3467 edit, 3467 edit TIFF, right? It's a TIFF file. It's a workable file. It's linked back to Lightroom as you edit it. This is kind of cool. I already love it. There's so many ways to go about this. I'm going to hit the letter J so I can copy that once more. It says the selected area is empty. Double click, drag it over down. Don't know what that was about, but I'm going to turn one off, leave one intact, and come here. That's super cool. I'm loving that. Let's look at our generations, which we created earlier. Where are you? Oh, properties. Properties, here we are. Hit that little guy so you can see all of the different options. I guess that's this selection that we have here. Don't know why or where do I have to click for that to happen. Okay. Learning curve ahead. I'm gonna erase this one because I don't think I like it. Black Universe. Why was that being so weird? Okay, so there it is. I have this one. Whoa. That one. Lots of curves. This is okay. I think it was the other way around. This one, I don't know why I find this intriguing. I think it's the tension of her being in between. So let's see. I love her there. I love this one too. They can easily be maybe animations together. I love stepping into the video editing zone. It's one of my favorite things to do. So if you folks are looking for video editing education, we do this same series over on Adobe Live, and by we I mean me, the Adobe Live team, and we do it on video, which is super awesome because I always think of how can I create a work of art that I can later animate. Don't know why, but I enjoy the animation process. There's something really intriguing about bringing in something that is potentially static, doesn't move, but then you give it an ingredient so that it comes to life. Am I the only one that thinks this way? Because I think that is so much fun. So whenever I'm in any phase, I always think about that. So go on over to YouTube, and I will be dropping in those live streams so that you can tune in live like we are right now, and hopefully learn some really cool stuff so you can add more mediums into your tool belt the way I have. And believe me, it's fun. It helps you think about different ideas in a whole new way. So let's continue our set here. I love it. I think I can see it as a potential animation, which could be so fun. That looks like a cool composition too, but we did make a copy. We made a copy on purpose. Let's grab that copy, hit the letter Command U, and shift those colors. We can do like a sepia boost. We can do old style. I mean, maybe, but we want something monochromatic, and it's already monochromatic, so all we have to change is maybe the hue. So we were to do or attempt to do something similar as we were doing earlier, but this time we're doing generative fill, and we're also doing the double exposure element. How can we do that on this one so that it looks cohesive? Let's put it there, hit it with the open bracket so it goes above the other layers, and hold Alt or Option on PC and make that black mask. All right, so I have that black mask here, and now I can start brushing in the ones that I want. Now the tricky part is, actually I need a white mask. I'm gonna do a white mask in this case because I need to see where this is going to be. Yeah, so let's go here and start to brush some of the areas that I don't want in. So go on your mask, grab black, and we're going to do those areas. And we can say, well, do I want it to be there? Maybe not. Maybe I might need to have the transparency here a little bit lower so I can determine the composition of this, because the composition could be something really cool like this, like upside down. And already we're playing with scale, so now we're playing with the orientation. So the rule or the guide of this game, I keep saying rule, but the guide of this whole thing is, in order to create a level of dynamic interest, you want to think about, what if I did everything the opposite? Just once. The same thing that you do, but what if you just made it the opposite for just a little bit? Like, what would that look like? This is what that would look like. It tends to have a little bit of both sides, right? Like, it has blue and it has red, cool and warm. It has digital and analog photography. Do I dare to call it photography? Digital and analog ingredients, right? It has orientation, scale that are opposite to each other. And that is what creates interest. That is what creates levels of organic storytelling and metaphors and symbolic layers. And to me, that's fun. That's a lot of different ways to really bump up the value of photos that you maybe forgot about. For me, this photo was one of the ones I forgot about, not because I didn't love that photo on the day of. I did. In fact, I think I've already published it somewhere vertically. But as of late, all I'm interested in is showcasing my work on my website, showcasing my still life work. I mean, not my still life, but my still work on my website or on Behance. So if you haven't heard about Behance, I love Behance. I think it's one of the best places to find a community that is as devoted to your craft as you are. And I'm talking about crafts. If you go here on the Discover page, I'm talking about things like digital crafts, InDesign, different tools that I will be teaching you here in Photoshop, Lightroom, Illustrator, InDesign, Premiere. There's a little bit of everything categorized by different industries, UI, UX, motion, archives. And I mean, when I tell you this is a wonderful place to be discovered, I've had wonderful clients who are a little bit more self-aware of the design excellence that they're after, because they come to a place like this where things are in fact presented in such high value for the spaces that you and I are in, whether that's photography, places where you can showcase your work. Can be a lot of thinking. You're like, well, should I do it on my website? Should I do it someplace else? This is a wonderful place to do that. I published a few photographs here, a few photograph series recently, and it's a lot of fun to see your work placed in the grand stage. I have some design work in here as well, which I get to play around with. I invite you to take a look at my work. Hopefully it inspires you to create and showcase more of your own work, because that is very, very important in your growth. There's something about choosing to launch, which is very vital. There's something about choosing to showcase your work that is going to help you grow. I don't know why that works that way, but I think it's because it's so inorganic in our lifetime to have had technology just tossed at us, and we don't know what to do with it. But when you're an artist, you're an artist since you're born, honestly, and you find yourself attracted to visuals, and you find yourself attracted to symbolic, abstract ideas, and concept thinking is easy for you. It happens while you sleep, it happens while you shower, happens while you eat. And then there's technology, and then there's these spaces that we're afraid to showcase our work in. I don't want you to be afraid. Believe me, I've grown a lot by not being afraid. But the fear was always there. You just choose to not do it that way. And so I often share my work here. I often share my work on my website. And I encourage you to do the same, folks. You're going to grow a lot from it. I'm trying to exit this, but technical difficulties. Just kidding. There's no technical difficulties. I just can't reach this button. Okay, there it is. So cynlagos.com, folks. I will be spending a lot of energy here to make sure you go to the right place, to make sure you have all the resources that you need in order to move forward in this early year of skill sets and different mediums that you're embarking on that I would love for you to explore. This is different actually. Might have to update that link. See, I'm gonna do a lot of work to this beautiful website that requires for me to update all the time. And it does have so much goodness already that I'm so, so proud of. So definitely scan this to get a discount on Skillshare. My classes explore design, photography, and video. Just the same, all across the board. And I welcome you to try any of the three categories for you to be able to explore a new medium today, right? So 1 free month on Skillshare, claim it. The discount changes all the time. There's going to be new opportunities, and I want you to check it out because I want you to grow just the same way that I've grown, and it's by learning online. So folks, this has been a ton of fun. I absolutely have loved my time with you, and I hope that you have learned a little thing or two, and at the very least felt inspired and excited to move forward in your design ventures with a lot of knowledge and a lot of heart. All right, folks. Again, my name is Cyn Lagos. See you on the other side.